We're back in verse 5 and 6. We're here to look at the second characteristic of covering. But let's begin by first clarifying a slightly confusing translation, which is found in verse 6. For if a woman will not cover her head, then she should cut her hair short, kairo. But since it is disgraceful for a woman to cut off her hair, kairo, or shave her head, shurao, let her cover her head. Now, did you realize that cut her hair short and cut off her hair both come from the same Greek word, kairo, which is confusing. So edit number 1 that we like to do is translate kairo consistently. We should either choose to translate it as cut her hair short as in A, or cut off her hair as in B. But the point is, do it consistently. So let's compare several popular translations. So I read you the ESV, and in the ESV, kairo up there is translated as cut her hair short in the first half of the verse, and then for some reason kairo is translated as cut off her hair in the next part of the verse, which is inconsistent. Shurao is translated as shaved. For the next 3 translations, CSB, NASB, and NIV, all 3 of them translate kairo consistently as cut off, and they translate shurao as shaved. Lastly, the NKJV translates kairo consistently as shorn, and shurao translated as shaved. So the point of this comparison is just to show you that other popular translations translate kairo consistently. They chose cut off her hair, or they chose shorn and they stuck with it consistently. But the ESV, for some reason, used 2 different sets of phrases in English, cut her hair short and cut off her hair, to translate the same Greek word kairo, which is confusing. And so we should do it consistently. So that's edit number 1 that we should do: translate kairo consistently. Choose between the 2 options and translate it consistently. But now there's a question: which option gives you a clearer translation? So we got consistency, but we also want clarity. And I'll say edit number 2, translate kairo clearly. For me, I find that option number A, cut her hair short, gives you a clearer translation as compared to option B, cut off her hair. It comes across as a slightly more confusing translation, and I'll explain why. Okay, so here are the 2 options we would like to choose from: cut her hair short or cut off her hair. Which one is clearer? Okay, so I'll just bring you through the verse with one of these options, listen to it, see whether it makes sense, whether it's easy to understand, and then when I bring you through the other version of that verse with cut off her hair, listen to it and see, compare which is easier to understand, which is clearer. Okay, so kairo as cut her hair short. So verse 6 will read, for if a woman will not cover her head, then she should cut her hair short. So you can see Anne Hathaway's long hair has been cut short, kairo. But since it is disgraceful for a woman to cut her hair short, same word, same thing, or, and this word is going to be very important, or shave her head, shurao, let her cover her head. The important thing I want you to just remember at this point is that in this way of translating kairo as cut her hair short, it shows very clearly that kairo and shurao are describing 2 different haircuts. One is a short haircut and one is a totally bald, shaved haircut. Okay, and this makes sense of the word or. Haircut A or haircut B. They are different, and that makes sense of the word or. Okay, now let's compare the other way of translating kairo. Kairo as cut off her hair. So verse 6 will read in this way: for if a woman will not cover her head, then she should cut off her hair. Under this, you may get this idea. Cut off her hair may sound to some people as being totally shaven off. And this, under this option, may give you this result: kairo as being cut off totally. But since it's disgraceful for a woman to cut off her hair, kairo, or shave her head, shurao, let her cover her head. Now, maybe at this point, some of you are already realizing there is something strange in this picture. You see, in this case, kairo and shurao come across as exactly the same haircut. Cut off her hair, if you take it to mean cut off totally, means bald. Shave her head, well, bald. Kairo equals shurao, but does that make sense of the word or? Bald or bald? It doesn't make sense. But since it is disgraceful for a woman to be bald or to be bald, let her cover her head. You see, that's what I mean by when we translate kairo as cut off her hair. If cut off her hair sounds like, oh, cut it off totally and you become bald, then it results in this misunderstanding, which is why I'm saying it's a slightly more confusing translation. Just compare it with the translation I said was clearer: kairo as cut her hair short. In this case, you get a very clear distinction between haircut A, kairo, cut her hair short but not totally gone, and then and then haircut B, shaved, shurao, totally bald. So the sentence makes sense. But since it's disgraceful for a woman to cut her hair short, haircut A, or next haircut, shave her head bald, shurao, let her cover her head. Haircut A or haircut B, different. And that makes perfect sense of the word or. And so I would say we should translate kairo with the words cut her hair short. And this will be my edited verse 6. For if a woman will not cover her head, then she should cut her hair short. But since it is disgraceful for a woman to cut her hair short or shave her head, let her cover her head. Okay, with this edited verse 6, let's study verse 5 and 6 together to find the second characteristic of covering. And you remember after verse 4, we were left with two options for covering. Let's recap quickly. Option A, cloth versus no cloth. To cover means to have cloth hanging down from your head. To uncover means to lack this cloth, and so it's just your hair there. That's all. Option B, long hair versus short hair. To cover means you just have long hair flowing down your head. To uncover means you just lack this long hair. You just don't have long hair. Okay, let's find out which option is the right one. Which one was Paul thinking about when he said, men do not cover, women cover? Which one does he talk? Which option is he thinking of? Okay, so verse 5 gives us a second characteristic. Verse 5 goes, but every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered, what does that mean? Dishonors her head, since it is the same as if her head were shaven. Now, it is the same as if informs us that Paul has drawn an analogy. Uncovering her head is analogous to shaving her head. It is the same as if she shaved. It is not the same as shaving her head. Uncovering her head is not equivalent to shaving her head. Okay, so characteristic number 2 for the covering is that the covering is analogous to one's hair. The covering is not one's hair. And so this would already at this point rule out long hair as what Paul means by covering, because the covering is not one's hair. It's analogous. It's something like the cloth, analogous to one's hair. But let's see the proof in verse 6. So we've got this table here with the characteristic up there, and let's test it against the two options with the reading of verse 6 to see if verse 6 makes sense in which reading. Okay, so option A, to cover means to have cloth down your head, uncover means no cloth. Look what happens when we read it with verse 6. Verse 6 goes, "For if a woman will not have cloth hanging down from her head, then she should cut her hair short." Comments. You see here the analogous relationship between removing the cloth on her head and removing the hair on her head is maintained in this reading. And this reading makes sense. If you don't want to cover with the cloth, well then, you might as well just go cut off your hair as well. That's what Paul is saying. This reading makes sense. Characteristic number 2 is maintained. Well, let's see what happens when we read option B, long hair versus short hair, in verse 6. "For if a woman will not have long hair hanging down from her head, then she should cut her hair short." Let me repeat that again, and listen and think about it. "For if a woman will not have long hair, then she should cut her hair short." If she will not have long hair, then she should cut her hair short. This really makes no sense. And characteristic number 2 is ignored, fails to see that Paul has drawn an analogy. He's not saying that the long hair is the covering. Okay, so the conclusion that I reach after reading verse 5 and 6 is the only reading that makes sense is when characteristic number 2 is maintained, seeing that when Paul talks about the covering, it's analogous to the hair. He's not saying when you cover, we're talking about having hair. So option B is ruled out in red. Option A provides the only possible definition of covering. And this is, to make it clearer, to cover means to have the cloth, and to uncover means to lack the cloth. Okay? When we reach verse 15, we will see another reason why the cloth is the covering that Paul was talking about. Triple confirmation. Okay? I promise you. So let's bring this to a close and summarize. Verse 4 to 6. "Every man who prays or prophesies, having something down from the head, dishonors his head." That is, if a man, when he's praying or is prophesying, and he has something coming down his head, a cloth, he dishonors his head. That is, he dishonors Christ in the act of praying to God in this way. Okay? "But every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered," that is, she does not have the cloth when she's praying or prophesying, what happens? Dishonors her head. That is, she dishonors the Christian man when she is praying or prophesying without the cloth covering her head. Why? Since it is the same as if, analogous, since it is the same as if her head were shaven. Praying and prophesying without a cloth is as if a woman was shaved bald. "For if a woman will not cover her head, then she should cut her hair short." One more time, there are two haircuts that can potentially be an analogy of not having cloth covering the head. "But since it is disgraceful for a woman to cut her hair short or shave her head, let her cover her head." Okay? It's not an easy thing to listen to, I am sure. And for most of us, the truth is, maybe this is the very first time we are reading, listening, watching something about 1 Corinthians 11. And so all along as a Christian, you've just grown up, men maybe as boys wearing a hoodie, girls to women having no idea at all that when we prayed or prophesied, there was a way to handle our heads, have some wear our hair, put our covering or not the covering. We had no idea that the Bible taught us about such things. And so it may come as a big shock to many of you listening and watching today. My encouragement is just, well, sometimes the Bible teaches us things that we had no idea existed, was true, was good, was wrong, was right. So maybe this is a learning experience for many of us. I just hope that you will not reject this teaching just because it sounds so foreign and strange. You know, it's in your Bible as much as it is in mine. So let's summarize verse 3 to verse 6. Our respective heads, our respective leaders are dishonored by wrong head covering practices, and we disgrace ourselves. So this is serious business. In the act of praying or prophesying, when we thought we were communicating with God, when we thought we were bringing a word of encouragement to our brothers and sisters, we can in fact dishonor them or disgrace ourselves if we don't do it the right way according to God's word. And so this is an incentive for all of us to search the scriptures more carefully and then change where change is required.